Howdy. This is going to be a very interesting video because it's one that I think is very important. One that people may say, hey Corey, why are you talking about this? Why is this important? Well, look at America and look at the divorce rates, and then come back to me and realize that we have a big problem, not just with fertility or testosterone, but with relationships as a whole. You see people are becoming famous, whether they are leftist social justice warriors who are talking about women and women's rights and how we need to respect women and they don't need men anymore, or we have these men who are like, oh, well, these women are messing with us, they're messing with our minds, and we need to take control of ourselves. And you have this clash between the sexes. You have a whole topic, a whole world that was made from love and always has talked about love through poetry and art and music. And there's a lot of shows and movies who may dramatize love and make it to an artificial sense. Take it Disney. Oh, you find your Prince Charming and your first kiss and all this jazz to sort of hype it up, and people end up depressed, people end up lonely, people end up in all these different situations nowadays, and it might seem very difficult navigating that all. I know firsthand, not because I experienced it myself, but because I talk to other people who have had experiences themselves. So this is a video about relationship advice coming from an outsider. I'm referring to myself as an outsider because I reflect upon society quite often. I look about, I don't need to be the one getting hurt. I see other people, tons of other people already getting hurt, and my job is to prevent that in myself and in others from it happening again to those people who are already getting hurt, and to minimize the hurt that they're already feeling, because there's a lot of experiences we have to learn in this life, and love is one of those very, very important topics. All throughout my schooling, I met kids who, were going through high school, middle school, and they're desperate for love. They're trying to find love. Why? They're at such a young age, they're still trying to find themselves. They're still maturing. They don't know themselves, and yet they're trying to find other people to latch onto, trying to find other support. Maybe it has to do with their parents and their own education, their real education, not the schooling system, but their own parents. How close are they with their parents? That they have a mother-like figure or a father-like figure, or do they depend on that from other people that they think they need through love, and they end up getting hurt through many different mechanisms. In this video, I'm going to talk about two main points, two main advices, I guess you can say, for relationships. Now, you can take this as you want. I'm no expert. Nobody, I would say, is an expert in this subject. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different circumstances and environments that they have to deal with, and different people. I mean, I lived up north and I come down south and they call it Southern hospitality. The people are much nicer down here, and you're gonna have different cultures and different people all colliding at different times. So it's hard to put a one blank slate over everything the same way we do the same thing in diet, where people say this is the one diet that must be imposed on everyone. This is the way we must think about everything. I like to have an open-minded worldview, reflect upon all these different worldviews, and find the right solution for the individual. So know that whatever I say in this video, always look down into yourself and evaluate yourself. The number one thing you can know is yourself. I can't know you. I don't live in your circumstance. How many people who are giving advice on the internet are going to tell you that? I hope they do. Now, nonetheless, we have the desperateness that I talked about in this generation, especially confusion, especially with the mass information, mass media at their fingertips, and looking at other people, looking at influencers, getting jealous, looking at how they have their relationships, even though it's much different from a relationship you may have, and they don't always show you everything, and they're not always being authentic. And you can see that people in their individual lives, they either have traumas since a very young age that are sort of resurfacing in many different ways, or they're lacking essential aspects within their birth, whether it be nutrients. I have teeth that aren't straight, which is interesting because my parents do, and different things like that, not just in physical growth, but mental growth. We see there's autism rising. It's like 1 in 2 people. And these things are not so natural. They have not always existed. These are things that are coming with the modern day and age. So we have to be careful. A lot of the essential things that keep us human are becoming lost going into the technological age. I warn people about this quite a bit, and you don't have to agree with me. But if you observe enough, maybe you will. Again, this is just my thoughts. People didn't listen to me when I warned them in high school. There were many kids who talked to me, and they either wanted to rush into a relationship with me or with other people, and they would talk about it constantly. And I said, don't rush into it, or, just be friends with somebody for a while. You don't have to call yourselves boyfriend or girlfriend. And the number one thing they did was just rush right into it. Start using the terms. Start, bragging about it to others, saying, hey, this is my boyfriend, girlfriend. Hey, here I am on social media. And this is part of the problem. See, I don't think I need experience to talk about this when I see people are willing to jump into scenarios without enough knowledge or without enough preparation. And if you just look at the psychology behind these actions or why people do what they do or say what they do, that doesn't require you having that experience yourself. Divorce rates are high, and people have midlife crises and all these things in the older populations. They want to blame it on the young, even though they're raising kids in ignorant of what they're doing to their own kids. Everybody has faults somewhere, and it's important to always look and see where they are. Everybody, I mean it, no one is perfect. Number one of my 2 advices is wait a few years. This is one that is not so popular among people, and I understand that. But I'm saying that people should stay as friends first before they call each other boyfriend, girlfriend, start applying the titles, and start bragging about it on social media. Don't title. Live with them. Actually learn how it's like living with someone before you say, oh, I'm going to get married, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to go through this huge ceremony, and we're going to set ourselves up with all these huge expectations, we're going to throw a bunch of material things and money, and I got to brag, and I got to show off, I got to look good, and you're not being yourself. See, rather than trying to chase, you can attract, and you can be yourself, because naturally you will attract what you are supposed to attract. And if you choose to embrace your nature, you choose to embrace who you are, because everyone is unique, okay? And yes, we are finding ourselves. That doesn't mean we try being different identities. We look at the different identities and we see, how does it relate to my current self? How could this make me a better person? Add morality into the equation. Add a sense of, how do I be my best self into the equation, not some other person's self, okay? We're not living according to another person's whim. This is government, this is politics, this is mind control. We are living according to what we know we should do, whether you call it nature or yourself or honesty, whatever you want to call it. You can call it your conscience, your consciousness, your intuition. It's all very important, okay? But you're not when you're latching on to titles, identities, and material things that are often created by the exterior modern world to get you trapped into certain ideologies, buying certain things, or falling into rabbit holes that are really hard to get yourself out of. If you start posting all over social media and you're flaunting about things, how hard would it be for you to get out of that relationship or out of that investment? Oftentimes I talk about political streamers and YouTubers, which some people might consider myself, and how they have a hardened position into one side or another, and they build their entire brand around that. How would you ever expect them to change if they were ever wrong? They would not see they're wrong, because they're surrounded by people who believe what they believe, and they invested such a brand name around that belief that it's basically impossible for them to get out of it. This is why I don't tend to stay in any one community. I'm always the outsider. Not to say I won't get along with people, not to say I don't, hang out with everybody, but that's the thing. Why not hang out with everybody? Why not see the beauty in everything? Because there is. There's a reason why everything exists. There's a reason why everything happens. But it's all about seeing that. Now, you also don't want to fall to peer pressure, because that's essentially what happens when you have many people. Let's say you're just with a girl. You're a guy and you're with a girl. Oh my gosh, they must be boyfriend and girlfriend. Don't fall for that. Don't, just because other people are used to that. Other people are used to those titles. Oh, is this your girlfriend? Is this your boyfriend? Does not mean you have to do it. You have to be aware of what these titles are doing. They're jumping you into something that you don't necessarily know yet. This is your friend. Everybody's your friend. Let things naturally develop develop and see where they go in time. But don't also let your instincts take you too far without your moral higher conscience thinking about, okay, what about my parents? What about my environment? Are things really right to do this? Is it right to do it now? Is it right to do it later? You have to be able to ask all these questions with your higher thinking and not just follow the instinct either. So letting things come naturally means both. Using your mind and using your heart. Not getting too swayed by the heart, because the heart can pull you really hard until it ends up hurting because you didn't use your brain, which is supposed to work with it. Okay, so very important that you have this covered. Now, number 2 is don't go through a strict ceremony or an attachment to material things or have expectation. I want someone to be this, that, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm going to go on this app. I'm going to find this, and that. Oh, I'm going to go to this place. Oftentimes, if you look at anything in life, does things ever work out as expected? Or do things actually happen when you least expect it? When you're just following your path and all of a sudden, oh, you run into somebody, oh, here they are. Maybe that's a sign not to just give up and don't try anything, but to live your life and do your thing. Because if you're trying to do something else outside of your own thing, then you're trying too hard. And if you're trying too hard, you're going to end up self-defeating. You're going to end up hurting yourself. And this is what happens, which is the whole reason why anybody would give advice to someone in the first place, I would hope, is to prevent harm being done to thyself. Individual choices harming thyself, even though it was an individual choice, but because that choice wasn't made with knowledge or wisdom or really deep reflection, that choice ended up backfiring on the individual. Now, this being said, what you need is outsiders, because if you are in a relationship or in any circumstance, because you're the one in it, you're not going to see everything that you're in. The person who will is the outsider, the one who's not in your circumstance. So while I say you know yourself the best, you're also not going to see certain things about yourself that you probably should, especially when it comes to external relationships with other people. Talk to somebody who you love, or a very best friend, somebody who has a great amount of knowledge, who listens to you, who you respect for their wisdom to give you advice when you need it. Okay? Always listen to yourself, but have that other person, because they're going to see things that you can't see. So you have to listen, you have to respect their wisdom. You can't just pass them off and say, I know what I'm doing. What are you talking about? I know this relationship. Listen and be transparent as much as possible to every individual if you want to live the most honest life. I talk about the practical application in Naturosophy. My book is honesty, but honesty is one of the core foundations to any relationship from what I see, and it's one of the main reasons why relationships tend to fail, because there's always some dishonesty, whether of thyself or toward other people. And if you can keep being honest at all times, then that's how you form the strongest relationship. I mean, you expect to live with somebody for the rest of your life, do you not? You have to build a strong bond, which means they need to know you and you need to know them. And even if you think you do, if you aren't having deep conversations, if you aren't really exploring different topics, maybe you don't. And it's always good to question ourselves, because this is how we improve. So again, you don't know your own situation. Sometimes the outsider is very helpful. This is why people go to psychologists or psychiatrists or coaches, because they're going to be able to help guide you in the right direction simply by asking questions, or at least they should, instead of giving you a drug or telling you to do something. A coach or a guide or a real teacher would ask you questions and find out from you what you are doing, and really, they're not telling you what to do at all. They're getting you curious about your own condition, asking you questions that you didn't ask yourself. So you can ask yourself a lot of questions, but there's going to be some questions you might miss off unless you have someone else helping you. That's all they're doing. They're helping you ask questions. Now, if somebody's telling you what to do, then that's not so much asking questions. But again, be honest with them. Find the people who will ask you those questions. You have to listen and be transparent, but they have to listen and they have to be wise to an extent, have some experiences, etc. People in this today's world have male and female battles, the nonsense of the modern world. You have to be true to yourself, true to your humanity, past the male and female. Doesn't matter. Respect everybody the same, be yourself, and let things go where they're supposed to go. But you know you, and we and everybody who's giving advice can only guide. Accept it, learn from everything. This is my advice when it comes to relationships. And I think it's an important topic I don't talk about much, although I journal quite a bit about the subject of love because it is one core and essential to the idea of nature. It's not one I necessarily talk about on my channel a lot, same thing as the concept of death, but that's because these are very important, very big topics that require a lot of introspection. You can say nature requires even more because without nature, your ability to function, you cannot love, you cannot do anything. And that's why I focus on that, which is the root cause. Nature is the answer. Corey and Angelot, thank you for watching.